else in this room. What's your name, by the way, sir?
Kyle.
Kyle. Kyle, did I get that?
Kyle.
Kyle, I'm sorry. Kyle. Let's say that I'm just being a jerk to Kyle. I'm just sitting there, I'm telling him, it's going on, and Kyle's being a gentleman. I'm not going to engage this jerk. I'm not going to say anything. I won't let him alone. And finally, Kyle has had it. He jumps up and says, no, you're the jerk. Right when he says that, Stacy walks in from outside. And he hears me call Kyle, or he hears Kyle call me a jerk. That's his entire exposure to this exchange we've had. Why is Kyle calling Mack a jerk? What is this? What's wrong with him? He missed all of the. So you have to always consider that there's Kyle's side, there's my side, but then there's the side of everyone else. If you lose your cool, and if you respond in kind, that's going to look bad on you. It doesn't matter what the other person did that you're responding to, and you have to remember too that a lot of people are more inclined to take the side of the customer versus the company. So always be respectful of comments left and don't lose your cool. Politely respond, address the points raised, and correct any misinformation. This is important to note because if anyone says anything about your company or how you handle a particular circumstance that's incorrect, you have every right to correct them. Again, you don't need to be a jerk about it, but just make sure they understand what the actual information is. Give readers a way to contact you for further comments. This is a big, big way. Again, the idea of piling on happens because a lot of times people don't think that the company is going to respond. When you do respond, and then when you do make it clear that, hey, I'm going to be sticking around here, I'm going to be in touch with you, here's a way you can get in touch with me. And a lot of times it makes more sense to address a particular comment off the blog. So it may be that you need to make sure that they have the email address of someone that they can contact off the blog because they can better help them to try to move that conversation to an offline setting or email setting. And also, once you're asking for additional comments, make sure that you actually do answer them because nothing makes you look worse than saying, hey, I'm here, we're listening. I'll be happy to answer any additional comments, and then when you start getting those additional comments in, if you don't answer them, well, you've pretty much done more damage than not saying anything at all a lot of times. And again, this goes back to the idea of how you handle the first conversation leads to the second one. Does anyone remember the Groupon Super Bowl ads they had, the Tibet, and one of them was waxing. There were some people that were a bit upset about those, and they thought they were maybe a little insensitive. When and this went on for a day or two, and I think his name is Andrew Mason, the CEO of Groupon. He actually wrote a blog post addressing this. What he was basically trying to do was he was basically trying to tell Groupon's side of the story. This is why we did the commercials. This was our cheeky attempt at humor. We're not trying to downplay any of the people that are suffering in Tibet or any of the other areas. We're donating, blah, blah, blah. He spent this long-winded response, and basically what he said was that you guys need to get over yourselves. You know, we were just trying to be funny. We're not trying to hurt anybody. And he was pretty dismissive. His tone was pretty dismissive of the people that were complaining. And then also he didn't say those two magic words, "We're sorry." As a result, a lot of people were not only offended with the commercials themselves, but they weren't too happy with his entire tone. So the way he handled the negative feedback that he was getting because of the commercials, the way he handled it made it a little bit worse simply because that people again that gave them basically another reason to be upset. They didn't like the commercials that much anyway, but then again, on top of that, they didn't like the way he handled it. They didn't like the fact that a lot of people were upset about these commercials, and his point of view seemed to be, well, hey, you know what, get over yourself. We're not trying to do what you're saying, so just get over yourself. So he made it a little bit worse by the way he handled the first conversation led to the second one. Now, let me, to close, let me walk you through a case study. That this was a couple of years ago. A friend of mine, Allison Heath, and she was working with hardwood artisans, and hardwood artisans got a really nice write-up at the Washington Post on one of their blogs, and basically it was sort of a background piece on this is what the company is, this is who they are, this is what they do, and they sell a lot of really high-end furniture. We're talking like beds that are like really very nice pieces. They're like $6,000, $8,000 beds. They're really nice, but they're really expensive. And it was a really nice article, but the writer made one mistake in that he noted that the company does not allow or does not offer health insurance to its employees. And it does, but he got that point wrong. When the readers read this article and they saw that the writer was saying that they didn't allow health insurance or they didn't offer health insurance, that was the point everybody jumped on. It was like, how dare he have a company, he's paying his people $20 an hour, they're making these $8,000 beds for him, and then he's not even giving his employees health insurance. So there were several people that jumped on that, and they were really upset about that. And Allison DM'd me that morning, and she was, you can imagine, she was pretty upset because she's got what she thought was really going to be a nice piece that was going to promote her company, and then now she's seeing that she's getting these negative comments. So she's like, what do I do? What do I do? And here's some of the comments she was, and at this point when she told me, there were only like 4 or 5, but most of them were really bad. This article is filled with inconsistencies. I will never buy furniture from Hardware Artisan. $6,000 to $8,000 for a bed and building a $700,000 house. What's wrong with this picture? The furniture is not only expensive, it's exploited. And this was really upsetting to her, so she was basically asking me, what do I do? I've got to do something. Here's what I suggest you do, and this goes back to what we talked about in the former slide. First, respond. Because again, you've already got 3 or 4 people that have jumped in here and are trashing your company. You need to go ahead and jump in and say something to them before it gets to 5 or 6. Clearly identify who you are and your relationship with your company. Let them know that you work with Hardware Artisans, that you're the director of marketing, so they know exactly who they're talking to. Be respectful of the opinions expressed. Because again, a lot of people were upset with this company, but she had to realize that a lot of that anger was coming from misinformation. Thank the commenters for their opinions and politely offer your response. Politely correct the misinformation in the article. Again, if there wasn't misinformation in this article, the writer did get something wrong. So you have every right to correct that misinformation. Invite the commenters to continue to discuss this with you here in the comments, plus give them your email address. So that signals to them that, hey, I'm going to address what you've already said, but I want to keep talking to you. I'm not just jumping in here to put a fire out and then I'm going to leave. Here's a way so you can stay in touch with me if you've got more questions. And if anyone does leave additional comments, make sure you answer those additional comments. And this is the comment she left, and I want to go ahead and read all this because I thought it was a really good comment. Hi, I'm the Director of Marketing for Hardware Artisans. Thanks to all commenters for the interest in Hardware Artisans. I do have one quick correction. No fault of Tom's. We've had health insurance available through the company since August of 2007. Employees can elect to take advantage of the company plan, but some have their own plans or get insurance through their spouses. Personally, I have the company plan. If anyone would like more information or has feedback, feel free to email me at allison@hardwareartisans.com or post here. I'm always happy to answer questions. Great comment. That's perfectly addressed all those points by Allison, and as soon as she left that comment, the entire tone of the comments flipped. Suddenly you had people saying, it looks like a nice company. I wish there were more companies like this. We've been a client of HA for 15 years. These guys build stuff my grandchildren will later fight over. All the complaints immediately disappeared. And you not only had people saying that, oh, well, this does sound like a good company after all, but you also had customers of Hardware Artisans that suddenly were like they were coming out of the woodwork. And it was almost as if by responding, Allison had galvanized the evangelist for Hardware Artisans to come out and speak on behalf of the company. So by jumping in and addressing the negative comments head on, she completely flipped the tone of those negative comments. And not only that, she was great about, as people were leaving more comments, because some people were asking follow-up questions. Well, like the article says this, how do you explain that? Blah, blah. She was very patient with them, and she made sure to answer all their points and address every point they made to her. She left her email, so she had a perfect response to them. Now, having said all this, what if you really do run into some trolls, some people that are really out there and they're just trying to attack you, and they're just trying to see if they can get a rise out of you? One way you can get around this or help yourself is, if you do have a blog, create a formal comment policy for your blog. This way you're going to be spelling out exactly what type of behavior is acceptable, because that's going to get rid of a lot of it right there if people know exactly where the boundaries are. I mean, this is mostly common sense and most people get this stuff, but still, It helps to have it written out. Encourage comments and clearly explain what type of comments are acceptable. Again, this is common sense stuff for the most part, but it still helps to actually have it in writing so that nobody can come back later and say, ah, well, you didn't tell us we couldn't say that. Well, yeah, we did. We've got a comment policy. Here it is. And understand that you never have to let a comment that attacks you or your reader stand or any with profanity. And don't get hung up on this idea of, oh, we can't delete a comment. If someone is personally attacking you, your company, or they're using profanity or language you don't approve of, delete it. You don't have to let that stand simply because you think that, well, we can't delete. No, if someone's being abusive, there's no reason for you to leave that on the blog. And if you moderate comments, please let readers know that, especially if you're dealing with somebody that's actually leaving a comment because they have a complaint about your company, they've got a question, they've got a problem. These are people that a lot of times they're already a little stressed and they're already a little, and then they go and they spend 15 minutes detailing this comment, telling you exactly what the problem is, so you'll know exactly how to help them. They hit send and they get back, your comment is awaiting moderation. A lot of times that can be the like, that's going to push them over the edge. So just make sure they know that up front that, yeah, we're going to moderate comments. So if you leave one, you may have to let, and don't moderate as quickly as you can, but at least tell them that there will be some moderation. That's all I have. Thank you guys very much, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Yes, sir. Excuse me. Sorry.
You're now reading their comment. It's negative. They all of a sudden you take it down, take it off. They're going to go do the Walmart Sucks website. Yeah. How do we stop that?
Well, again, it depends on what they said in that comment. I mean, if they're basically cussing you out, and yeah, you pull it down. And you can go, and there are, for certain, especially this is more prevalent in certain industries, but yeah, especially the apartment industry for one, they've got a lot of sites like that they're basically where people will come and post negative reviews. The best way you can counteract that is you can try to address it strictly on the site, where the owners, they may let you get away with it, they may try to shut it down, because some of these sites are set up so they're trying to encourage people to come and leave these negative reviews because that's what draws traffic. One way you can try to address it strictly on the site, if the owners aren't responsive to you there, another way is to just put out content yourself. This is a great example of why it pays to have a company blog. You can tell your side of the story. You can be on Twitter. If these people are slamming you on Twitter, you can respond to them there. Again, you have to remember that the idea of the third side of the conversation, you know. You may be telling me why I suck, and I may be explaining it to you, but if I can get the word out to everybody else, you know, everybody else doesn't have your investment or my investment in the conversation. You know, they're trying to make up their own minds. So if they'll look at what you're saying, they'll also look at what I'm saying most times. So
the other thing in the example you gave about the furniture company, is it better at that point when you're talking about benefits, employee benefits, to come from marketing or to come from HR or to come from somewhere else? Even marketing may write it, but
yeah,
assign the authorship to HR or something.
Well, it really, yeah, that kind of gets into who should own social media, and I think it depends on, it's sort of a company by company basis.
Depends on if it's Friday at 5 o'clock also.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, because yeah, if it comes up at Friday, you need to have a way to make sure that they're going to be there's some type of monitoring that's going to happen all the time. It has to happen 24 hours a day. There has to be some way for it to come in, because a lot of the big social media crises of the last few years, Motrin moms, for example, happened on the weekend. And they didn't respond, and it got to the point where people were contacting the agency and asking them about this, and they're like, do you know what's happening on Twitter? I'm sorry, you'll have to explain to me what Twitter is. What? So, yeah. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, if you don't approve someone's comment, is it appropriate to email them and let them know, hey, your comment has not been approved, here's why?
That's a really good idea, yeah. Yep. Yep, exactly, yeah. Because she was saying that if you don't approve someone's comment, is it a good idea to email